The job was 4 months alone in a fire lookout tower, 90 minutes from the nearest road. The pay was good, the work was simple, and the woman who trained me gave me exactly one rule that wasn't in the manual. She said, "If you ever hear your own name called from the tree line at night, do not answer, and do not write it in the log." I laughed. She didn't. I should explain what the job actually is, because it sounds lonelier than it is. A fire lookout sits in a little glass room on top of a tower, up above the canopy, and you watch. That's it. You watch for smoke. You log the weather every few hours, you radio it in, and on a clear day you can see 60 miles in every direction. Mountains, forest, a thin silver river. It is the most beautiful job in the world, and the quietest, and I wanted the quiet more than I wanted anything. The woman who trained me, her name was Dell, she'd done 16 seasons, she walked me through all of it, how to use the fire finder, how to ration water, what to do if a storm rolled the tower, which it does, it sways, you get used to it. And then on her last evening, before she hiked out, she sat me down and gave me the rules that the agency doesn't print. She said, "The radio is your only voice, so protect it." She said, "Don't go down the tower stairs after dark, not for any reason, because the stairs are steep and no one is coming if you fall." And she said, "Sound does strange things up here. The wind comes up the valley at night, and it carries voices, campers miles off. You'll swear they're right below you. It's a trick of the canyon. So if you hear talking, ignore it. And if you ever hear your own name, do not answer. Do not go to the window. And whatever you do, do not write it in the log. Because the log is a record," she said. "The log is you saying, 'Yes, this happened. I witnessed this.' And you don't want to witness that." I asked her, "What happens if I do?" She picked up her pack and she said, "I don't know. Nobody who broke that one came back to tell me." And then she smiled like it was a joke, and she climbed down, and I watched her get smaller and smaller on the trail until the trees took her. The first 3 weeks were heaven. I read. I watched storms build 100 miles away and crawl toward me over an afternoon. I logged my weather, I radioed in, and I slept hard. The loneliness I'd been afraid of never came. The forest was company enough. The voices started in week 4. It was just like Dell said at first, faint talking, drifting up on the night wind, the cadence of a conversation without any of the words. Campers, I thought. The canyon. I'd lie in my cot and listen to it the way you'd listen to a radio in another room, and eventually it would fade, and I'd sleep. Then one night, the talking got closer. Not louder, closer. The difference is hard to explain, but you know it when you hear it. A far voice and a near voice sound different, even at the same volume. This was near. This was below the tower, at the bottom of the stairs, in the dark where my flashlight didn't reach. And it was saying my name. Not shouting it, saying it. Gently, patiently, the way you'd call a dog that's wandered off. My name. Then a pause. My name. Then a pause. As if whoever it was had all night and knew I could hear and was simply waiting for me to be polite enough to answer.
I did what Dell said. I didn't answer. I didn't go to the window. I lay in my cot with the blanket up to my chin like a child, and I let it call. And after maybe an hour, it stopped. In the morning, I almost convinced myself I'd dreamed it. Almost. But I'm a careful person, and being careful is what saved me, I think. Because I'd started keeping a second notebook. Not the official log, just a private one, for my own sanity. And without really thinking about why, I wrote in the private one, heard it, didn't answer, did not log it.
It came back the next night, and the next. Always the same. My name, Patient, from the bottom of the stairs. And each night I noticed something new. The first night it only knew my first name. By the fourth night it was using my full name, my middle name, the name only my mother used. By the sixth night, it had my mother's voice. That was the night I nearly broke, because it is one thing to ignore a stranger in the dark. It is another to lie still while your mother who lives 2,000 miles away and is fast asleep in her own bed, stands at the bottom of your tower and says your name and starts to cry, starts to beg, says she's hurt, says she's cold, says please, just come down, just open the door. I came all this way.
I put my hands over my ears. I bit down on the blanket, and I did not answer, and I did not go to the window, and I did not write it in the log. In the morning, I radioed the ranger station, casual as I could make it, and I asked, just making conversation, whether anyone had hiked up my way recently. The dispatcher checked. No permits, no trail traffic, no one within 15 miles of my tower in either direction for the entire month.
There was one more thing. She asked me before she signed off, almost as an afterthought. She asked if I was the one who'd been logging the nighttime entries. Because, she said, the automated systems show log entries coming in from my tower at 3 a.m. every night that week. Short ones, just a few words each. I told her I never logged anything at 3 a.m. in my life. I sleep at 3 a.m. She read me the entries. They were all the same 2 words, typed into the official log, the record, the place I had been so careful never to touch. The 2 words were my name, answering itself. I hiked out that morning. I left the water. I left the books. I left 4 months of pay on the table. The agency was furious. They asked me why. I didn't have an answer that wouldn't get me a psych evaluation. So I just said the isolation got to me. And they nodded like they'd heard it before. And maybe they have. I think about Dell sometimes. 16 seasons. I think she lasted that long not because she was brave, but because she understood. The one thing it took me a month to learn. The voice can call you forever. It has all the time in the world. The only power it has is the power you give it the moment you answer, the moment you agree that it's real, that it's there, that it deserves a reply. So if you ever take a job like mine, in the quiet places, up above the trees, and you hear your name come up out of the dark and a voice you love, let it call. Don't answer, and never, ever write it down. Lock your doors. Sleep well, if you can.